Having one interest that consumes your being is fun enough, but taking two interests and mashing them together like a child playing with toys, double the fandom, double the fun. Hi there, I'm Cafetato, the caffeinated potato, and I got my humble beginnings in digital art by making My Little Pony OCs. Emphasis on humble. When I was a kid, I loved watching My Little Pony speed paints on YouTube. I loved the way they would draw and stylize the ponies, and I always dreamed of being able to do that one day. But recently I realized, I have grown so much as an artist. I could draw ponies like that now. And since I love My Little Pony redesign videos, I wanted to try to make one of my own. But I wasn't sure if my own designs would be different or interesting enough from the canon designs to warrant an entire speed paint and voiceover video to go with them. I wasn't even worried about standing out from the other artists, I just wasn't feeling inspired. I needed a way to spice it up a little. And when in doubt, I turned to D&D. The idea of drawing the main six as D&D characters immediately got my mental gears turning and ideas flowing. I know this isn't a completely original idea, other people have drawn them as D&D characters before, but I don't care, the idea sounded fun regardless. I noticed that most other people draw them as humans when D&D-ifying them, but I was specifically in the mood to draw them as ponies, so that's what I did. When I do D&D redesigns of characters, I specifically imagine them as the characters within a campaign, not as the ones playing the game. I'm the type of player who gets really into the narratives you can tell within D&D, so I tend to take that more immersive approach, rather than the more silly, gamey view. Now, with that context established, let's move on to the design, shall we? First up is Twilight Sparkle. I, of course, had to make her a wizard, because books. After all, wizards are specifically spellcasters who learn magic through intense study and memorization, and write down their spells in spellbooks. I leaned more on classic D&D imagery for this design. Big wizard hats like that aren't used as often in D&D character designs these days, which is a shame because they can look pretty awesome in my opinion. I also pictured these designs as representing a low-level party at the start of the adventure, which is why I drew Twilight as a unicorn, not an alicorn. Which, speaking of unicorns, I wanted each pony type to look different from each other to play around with more variation in their designs. I wanted unicorns to look majestic, tall and slender with leonine tails. I know that style of tail on My Little Pony characters can be somewhat contentious, but I don't care. I've heard some refer to them as rat tails, but they're not. I don't know if those people have ever actually seen a rat's tail before. That's not what they look like. They are leonine tails. They look like lions. Lions are majestic and adorable. So I will draw my pony's tails however I like. And if you don't like it, you can go and make your own art of ponies where you can draw them however you like. Meanwhile, I'm just going to continue having fun doing my own thing. And another thing I find fun to do is coat markings, just to add a little bit more detail into the designs. I know the show keeps their designs simple to make them easier to animate, and that is completely valid. I, however, have no such requirements. I can make the designs as detailed as I wish. I also gave Twilight more yellow in her design, because I've just always loved the yellow in her rainbow power design, and I wanted to allude to that. Purple and yellow are probably my favorite complementary color pair, and I feel like the yellow just makes her design pop a little bit more. I also gave her little librarian-style glasses, because I thought it would be cute. Yes, I know that giving the most brainy character glasses to signify that they're smart is a cliche. Again, I don't care. It looks cute, and this is something I'm just doing for fun. For the domains, I try to keep general shapes and vibes while changing them to fit with my style and the D&D class designs. So Twilight still has that blunt cut style, even if I don't do it in exactly the same manner as in her canon design. It's a bit hard to see with a hat, but I also gave her a little half ponytail. And you've probably noticed in the Speedpaint by now, but I drew Spike as a little pseudo dragon. I just thought it would be cute if he could act as her wizard familiar. As for how Twilight's wizardness could have changed her story, I don't think much would even need to change, honestly. At the very least, the earlier bits could play out just like in canon. She still starts out as Celestia's very dedicated and studious but practically inexperienced student, gets sent to Ponyville to check up on things, meets the rest of the main characters, and has to deal with the sudden arrival of a villain threatening Equestria. That's already a classic D&D story encounter right there. Next, we have Pinkie Pie. And if Pinkie Pie doesn't just scream bard, then I don't know what does. I mean, come on, a spellcaster who casts magic through playing music, and whose primary role is to inspire and uplift the body? That just has Pinkie Pie written all over it. Again, I leaned heavily on classic bard imagery with her. Like, this is something of a pattern throughout all the designs. I know that there is a D&D episode of My Little Pony, and in that episode, Pinkie looks to be some sort of bard. I didn't remember that until after I drew this though. So the resemblances between the designs are really just coincidence. The reason why I went with the mostly yellow and blue color palette is because those colors are already present in her cutie mark, and they serve to make her overall design more colorful, because bards tend to be pretty colorful. I wanted earth ponies to be larger, sort of like draft horses, since their whole thing is strength. I gave them broader faces compared to other ponies to emphasize this, and in general I make them fluffier, specifically with their legs, because you could never go wrong with more floof. I also put Pinkie's hair into cute little pigtails. This was actually inspired by my friend's D&D wild magic sorcerer, who is also a chaotic little gremlin, but mostly because they are cute. Pinkie Pie would be a very chaotic bard. Now, I don't see her as being the flirty bard stereotype. That trope is a little bit overdone anyway. But she'd definitely get into so many hijinks. Bards are jacks of all trades, and good at so many different things, which I can definitely see Pinkie using in comedic ways. I gave her the classic bardic instrument, a lute. But she probably knows how to play so many more kinds of instruments too. She does in canon, after all. Fluttershy is, of course, a druid. Druids are spellcasters who are very in tune with nature, and it is a common stereotype that they will try to befriend every animal they come across. They also have the ability to transform into animals, which I think Fluttershy would really enjoy. However, I definitely see Fluttershy as being more of a support caster, as opposed to using her wild shapes to get up close and personal in combat. For her design, I went with plants everywhere. Leafy cloves and a lot of flowers in her hair. Her bag has little potion vials because 1, it's cute, and 2, it helps give healer vibes, since I see Fluttershy as being the party's main healer. I also had her wearing antlers because that's just a classic druid feature, and I wanted these designs to be as obviously belonging to their classes as I could. For Pegasi, I wanted them to appear smaller and more lightweight, and I also gave them larger wings compared to how they are in canon. I drawed the tails as sort of a cross between unicorn tails and earth pony tails. I just thought it would look interesting. I also thought that the flexibility could be helpful for maneuverability in flight, but it also would be an absolute crime to rob Fluttershy of her long flowy tail. I figured this was a good compromise. All in all, I think she turned out super cute. Fluttershy had always been one of my favorites of the main 6. I love drawing long, flowy hair, and adding little braids helps add more detail. So this was fun to do. For Rainbow Dash, I decided to make her a monk. I know in the D&D episode of My Little Pony she appears to be a rogue, and I did consider that, but there was a specific reason I thought monk worked better. They are fast. Monks gain crazy movement speed compared to other classes, so it just fit Rainbow Dash to me. Her playing a rogue makes sense. I just know she'd be an absolute menace of one. I just know she'd constantly try to steal things because she can, and just be the worst kind of chaotic neutral. But in terms of actually being a class, I think that running up and straight up punching enemies is more her style than trying to be all sneaky about it. After all, rogues are typically the ones to find and disable traps. But why would Rainbow do that when she could just run through a trapped corridor and dodge all the traps with her insanely high dexterity score and dope monk shit? Plus, it also gave the party another melee fighter, which I feel helps things feel more balanced. Monks are typically dressed in flowy robes, so I tried to give her that. Which was pretty tricky, but I think I pulled it off alright. Having her stand on her hind legs definitely helped with that, honestly. I also gave her those bandage-like wrappings, which are also very common in monk designs. For her hair, I tried giving her a sort of undercut ponytail thing, kinda like Sokka from Avatar. Fun fact, trying to convey an undercut on a pony is not easy, but I do think it suits her, honestly. Next up is Applejack, and for her I went with Fighter. I've seen others depict her as a barbarian, and while I can see that because barbarians are known for being strong and durable, I just didn't see Applejack as really having the rage barbarians are known for. Fighters in D&D tend to be considered boring because of how simple they are, but that's kinda why I thought it fit so well. Not because I think Applejack is boring, because I just think she would appreciate that simplicity. Fighters aren't super flashy, but they are very versatile and very good at what they do. So in that sense, they are very reliable. Since Applejack would be a strength-based fighter instead of a dex-based one, I gave her armor. I modeled it after the armor the Royal Guard wear in the show, but I made AJ's look more like iron instead of gold. I also added some dings and scratches because I was imagining that this armor was like a hand-me-down or a family heirloom of sorts. I took her loose ponytail and made it into a braid because it would probably be better for a fighter to have her hair more secure. And having it be a braid allowed me to keep the general shape. I struggle with drawing braids a lot, but I'm actually really happy with how this one turned out. Applejack also probably has my favorite patterns out of all the co-patterns I gave these redesigns. Though in hindsight I should have made the brown on her legs and face darker because the shading ends up being difficult to really see it. It just kind of blends in. Last, but certainly not least, is Rarity. I really struggled with Rarity, honestly. I could not figure out what class to make her for a while. I knew I wanted some sort of charisma caster, but the question was, which one? My first thought was Bard, but I didn't really want to have any repeats in the party composition, and Bard was just screaming Pinkie Pie. So that kinda leaves Sorcerer and Warlock. And those are two classes that are so broad in how they are typically depicted visually, so it still left me struggling for ideas. Ultimately, I decided on Warlock, because I thought it'd give me a little bit more to work with. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Because Warlocks are spellcasters who are granted their powers by some sort of powerful entity. And that could be very interesting when you consider Rarity's whole generosity thing. I didn't think too hard about what subclass each pony would be, and the same applies to Rarity. So I don't really know what kind of patron Rarity would have. As for the design itself, Warlocks are typically portrayed as dark and mysterious. So I alluded to that by giving Rarity a darker color scheme, with dramatic eyeshadow and a cloak. She's kind of channeling Disney villainous vibes, though I definitely still see this Rarity as being as kind and generous as in canon. She just embraces a darker aesthetic. I also gave her a high ponytail, mostly because I thought it would be fun to draw her dramatic curls in a ponytail, but also because it would be more practical to keep her hair up while adventuring. And that is all of them. Character design has always been my favorite thing. And it's been years since I did any My Little Pony related art, so this was fun. I feel like I could expand this into a whole SAU, but, well, I've already done that with a different fandom, and that's gotten overshadowed by the massive workload that is creating a webcomic, so I'm probably not going to do anything more with this. Unless, of course, I get smacked in the face with the inspiration stick, which is always a possibility, I guess. But for now, I'm going to try to focus myself on my other projects. Oh god, I have so many. Speaking of, I should really go work on those. Until next time, goodbye.